From the Land-Grant University in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, this is the Closing Market Report. It is the 20th day of August, 2026. I'm Extension's Todd Gleason. Coming up, we'll talk about the commodity markets with Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. He's in Windsor, Illinois. We'll be joined again by Oliver Sloup and Sherman Newlin. Oliver with Blue Line Futures, Sherman with Zaner Ag Hedge. Both have been traveling all week long on the Pro Farmer Crop Tour. They were in Iowa yesterday, and Oliver is still taking, or was at least still taking when I spoke with him, samples from cornfields and soybean fields in Iowa today. That number will be released for Iowa tonight, along with the figure from Minnesota, which is where Sherman Newlin is. And we'll hear all about what both of them feel like the whole of this corn crop looks like as we make our way through this Thursday edition of the Closing Market Report from Illinois Public Media. It is public radio for the farming world, online, on demand at willag.org. That's WILLAG.org.
Todd Gleason services are made available to WILL by University of Illinois Extension.
September corn for the day at $4.78 3/4, up 5 3/4. December 5.5 cents higher at $5.03 and the March corn 5.18 1/4, up 4.5 cents. September soybeans $12.20 3/4 a bushel, a penny and a half lower. November down 3/4 cent, settled $12.36 1/2, and January at $12.51 1/2, up 1/4 cent. Bean meal $3.20 higher. The bean oil up $1.32. Wheat futures soft red at $7 even, up 2.5 cents. The hard red December at $7.76 1/2. Down 1/4 cent. Live cattle futures in Chicago 77.5 cents higher. Feeders up 65 cents and lean hogs down $1.27 1/2. Crude oil $86.94 a barrel, up $2.55 on this Thursday. Matt Bennett from agmarket.net now joins us to take a look at the marketplace. Hi, Matt. Thanks for being with us. Can you talk to me about this week and what it's meant to the marketplace in your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the Pro Farmer Crop Tour is always very much anticipated. I think it's definitely had an impact, on the market. I mean, you come out of, a weekend like we saw, and there's no doubt that there was a lot of moisture. Now, unfortunately, in some areas, it was just way too much. I'm sure that it didn't help the crop where you had 10, 12, 15 inches of rain. And unfortunately, as well, there was a lot of areas that actually experienced something like that. But at the same time, I don't think that we're trading just the U.S. crop. Yes, pod counts have been a little low, but I'm still of the opinion that the yield on USDA for corn, or for soybeans anyway, will move higher. I just feel like you had a dry finish last year. Maybe you don't have as good a pod counts this year, but at the same time, you're going to finish so well that these beans should be awfully good. But yeah, Pro Farmer Crop Tour has been a big shock for a lot of people, especially if they're going to be below USDA. It's supportive to say the least.
And what do you think of their corn numbers, and are you in agreement?
I don't know about total agreement. I mean, I'm a big fan of the tour in that they are out in the field. It's they follow the same routes each year to try to get consistency, and then they try to true themselves up as to how much they're off from the USDA. So, if you start throwing in those factors of state yields, for instance, with Illinois, it would equate to 188, I believe, after you do the handicap on their number. Man, I don't know if we're that low. I mean, I have talked to several agronomists that think that's a possibility, but at the same time, Illinois at 212, or I believe that was the number, 211, 212. That seems awfully rich. I mean, one thing that I've said all along, Todd, and I'm sure you've heard me say it, is that, just massive amount of rainfall in June makes it super hard, to not lose nitrogen. And that's exactly what we've seen happen. And, I talked to Tyne Morgan yesterday after she went through Illinois, and she said, they didn't see really good, consistent corn until they got farther west, but it was in areas that, for instance, doesn't really compare to McLean County, and obviously that's the biggest corn producing county out there. And she said they were very concerned and frustrated with, what that crop looked like, just due to nitrogen loss, of course, holes in fields, and, corn firing up to the ears. So, there's a lot out here, but my personal thought is USDA number probably could come down some. I'm just not one of those guys in the mid 170s. Probably 180 would be a good over under for me right now.
Okay, and a lot of that has to do, I think, probably with your crop, where you are from Effingham South in the state of Illinois. You feel like that crop looks pretty good?
I think it looks pretty good. I just made that drive last week. I feel like overall, a lot of areas now, there are pockets that I think even had to take some prevent plant this spring that were just excessively wet for a long time. That crop's a little bit later the farther south that you go, just due to how wet they were in the spring. But they're certainly getting the kind of finish you'd want to see. So, my personal thought is that you're going to have some folks in Illinois with the best crop they've ever harvested, and then you're going to have some folks that it's not going to be anywhere close to something like that, and maybe one of the worst ones they've had in years. So it's going to be really hard to get a firm number on it, but variability is going to be the name of the game.
What should farmers do when they see a $5 handle on futures for corn?
Well, first of all, that's the kind of price that most of us have not enjoyed being able to see here over the last 3 years. So, I know a lot of people are all bulled up right now. I certainly understand there are some reasons to be a little bit friendly to the market. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you don't make an incremental sale. So if someone, I've talked to several growers that have said, hey, I haven't sold much of anything yet. And I said, well, congratulations, but that doesn't mean you still sit on your hands. Run the math, at the yield you're projecting. And that again, you got to get in your fields this year. I think that some folks might be a little disappointed with some of the nitrogen laws, but get a good number, give or take 5-10 bushel, however close you can get it. Where's your break even at, and most people are definitely going to be above break even at this stage of the game that are listening to this. And if that's the case, man, I really struggle not to tell people to go ahead and sell some crop.
Hey, thank you much. I appreciate it, Matt.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
Matt Bennett is with agmarket.net. You're listening to the Closing Market Report from Illinois Public Media. Our theme music is written, performed, produced, and courtesy of Logan County, Illinois farmer Tim Gleason. Up next, an update from the crop tour with Oliver Sloup and Sherman Newlin. Oliver Sloup has been on the eastern leg of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour for the week. Thank you, Oliver, for being with us. First, if you would, can you detail yesterday's Illinois state averages for me as it relates to either the whole of the state or that route which you ran?
Yeah, so Illinois, kind of was on theme with what we saw really at the start of the week through Ohio and Indiana, and it was a little bit underwhelming, I guess would be the way to put it. Pro Farmer came out with 184.19. It's 7.7% below last year and about 7.5% below the 5-year average. So quite a bit off there. Last year was a great crop, though. So that doesn't mean that this year's crop is a total bust. I think we just have expectations maybe set high, and people have been maybe lulled to sleep, think that it's just going to get better and better every year, and that's obviously not the case. And I think weather's been a huge variable throughout the growing season, and really this week on Pro Farmer, I think summarizes that really well, where Ohio, Indiana, really wet, really muddy, standing water. We've got beautiful sunshine. Iowa. Yesterday, we actually came across a tornado in Louisa County in Iowa. So just the weather volatility that we've seen this week is certainly kind of on par with the growing season. You can certainly see the impacts on what we've seen in the field so far with that.
Nice photo, by the way, of that tornado that you posted to X. It was interesting to see what you were seeing across the horizon. Now, you have been running a route in, I think, one of the garden spots of the Corn Belt. Can you tell me about this route in Iowa? You were near Coralville or Iowa City last night. Where'd you go today?
Yeah, so today's route, we kind of started near Cedar Falls, just west of Cedar Falls, and basically go straight north from there. And the garden spot is often what it's referred to. And certainly with what we've seen through the first 6-7 stops, that seems to be kind of living up to the name. It's the best corn that we've seen all week. How it stacks up against prior years, we'll have to wait and see. But through our first handful of stops, I'd say the average is probably in that 215, 220 neighborhood. So it's a good crop and the best we've seen so far.
What has impressed you about it?
I think the population, the ear count has been up. That certainly helped. That's been a big hindrance through Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, just the low ear counts. Also, the length of the ears as well has kind of put a drag on yield, which I think is where we've seen the big drop-offs. But here you're getting a little bit more consistency and higher ear counts and higher ear length. That certainly plays a role. Last year around this time, you couldn't find a field that didn't have southern rust. And this year, that isn't the story. Not a ton of disease pressure in the fields that we've been in today. And I think that's certainly helping things along as we push through to the back half of August.
Will you make your way into Minnesota today?
We do. We have a few counties in Minnesota. So I'm not sure which ones they are off the top of my head, but a few counties left here in Iowa. We'll get a few in Minnesota. We'll meet back up this evening in Rochester, get the final numbers for Iowa or in Minnesota, and have a good time talking with scouts, seeing and hearing what they heard along their travels today as well.
How many years have you done the eastern leg of the Pro Farmer Tour?
This is my 5th year, and every year's a little bit different. This year certainly it has its own little story behind it, and I'm almost referring to it as kind of a Goldilocks year, where it's not too hot, not too cold, just kind of middle of the road. And that seems to be the consensus so far. But yeah, 5 years. I love doing it. It's a long week. You get up early, you go to bed late, and you do it all again the next day. And you kind of hope the weather cooperates. And outside, that first day and a half or so, things have been pretty easy as far as weather goes, which makes it a lot easier for us to get excited about going out in the morning and getting in the fields.
When USDA gets to its September numbers and they have objective yields, do you think the 180.7 will stand?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question right now. I feel like there's a good chance that we could see the yields continue to decline and maybe get down below that. I really think that what we've seen through Ohio, Indiana, and obviously Illinois, just really, I hate to use the word disappointment, but it kind of was, and I just don't know that what we're seeing today is going to be able to fill the void for the lack of what we saw or didn't see in Indiana and Illinois.
Hey, thank you much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd. Take care.
That's Oliver Sloup. He is with Blue Line Futures and traveling again on the eastern leg of the Pro Farmer Tour. He is in Iowa and will be in Minnesota later today. Speaking of Minnesota, Sherman Newlin is in Minnesota now, and he joins us from the western leg of the tour as they converge towards Rochester. Thanks, Sherman, for taking time with me today. Where are you at this point?
We are south of Darfur. We're in Minnesota, north of a little town called Butterfield in Watonwan County, District 8 at the moment. Just getting ready to take our 7th stop for the day.
Has your route all been in Minnesota today, or have you been in Iowa too?
Yes, it's all been in Minnesota today.
Go back through your Iowa numbers for me. I would appreciate that, and what you found or what your thoughts were about that crop first.
I don't have them in front of me, but I mean, our crop, what we saw to start with was pretty disappointing. Our first stop there was 131. I think through the whole day, we only had a couple of yields over 200. But for the most part, I mean, had a couple of 130s. You could tell there had been some drought. I mean, the ground was wet. Things looked green, but you could tell things had been just ear size just wasn't there for length of ear, right? So we were down, I think, I don't remember now, Todd, but 10 or 11% from last year in the car. I don't have, like I said, don't have those numbers in front of me, but I guess my overall take was that side of Iowa was quite a bit less than what we'd seen before.
And if you were to explain to us, roughly speaking, what your route looked like in Minnesota, what part of southern Minnesota are you running?
We are in the southwest part of Minnesota, so to speak. We came straight kind of north, went west a little bit, and then came straight north out of Iowa into this. I mean, we're north of Route 90 right now, so when we do finish up, we've got 4 more stops to make. We'll deadhead, get down to Route 90, and then we'll deadhead east into Rochester.
And what have you found?
I mean, it's been pretty close to last year. overall. No, I mean, we're not too bad. The car average is 201. We're 2% less than last year, but we're 12% over the 3-year average for corn. We've had yields, like I said, from average 201. We've had yields from 178.5 to 223.5.
Sounds like a good average. When
Yeah.
you think about the whole of what you've seen in the western leg, and I know you've been out and about in parts of the eastern corn belt,
Oh, yeah.
how do you view the crop?
In what we've seen out here in the West, or the entire crop?
Well, both.
Yeah, both. You know, I think USDA is probably pretty right. I think they're too high for Iowa from what I've seen. I honestly was a little surprised or shocked from what we saw in Iowa. We just weren't, finding the ear size. Nebraska was down, some, but I'm never overly impressed with some. I would think you'd get better yields out of Nebraska than what we see on most of the time. And then South Dakota was definitely hurt. USDA said they were down, and I think they're going to have that one pegged pretty well. Minnesota, I think, is going to be pretty well on par. On par, close to average, or what they're saying it's going to be. But I'm from Illinois. I know what the crop kind of looks like in our area, but I can't argue. I knew from Route 70 north in Illinois was not going to be the best. So I was just saying the 212 that USDA put out for their Illinois yield. I really did think it was going to be too high, and at least by Pro Farmers numbers, it looks like that they need to come down in Illinois as well. And I agree that I think they should. What number? I don't know, but you guys got a pretty good rain there last night, didn't you?
We had 2.5 inches in my gauge this morning, so we had a pretty good.
I thought.
On top of the 11 that we've had here in my area already.
And those, that's going to take a toll on some stuff. I know around Lafayette they got 4.5 inches. So, I think the national average yield is still going to have room to come down. I know how much they take it. We'll just have to wait and see.
Do you think the Illinois number should come down 20 bushels?
20 bushels? No, it won't come down 20 bushels.
That's what the. I know what the differential.
Right.
That's what the differential is. I mean, the Illinois, they were 184 plus 4.6 bushels for your differential yesterday. That would put it at around 189. Let's call it 190. That's 22 bushels.
Yeah. I will be shocked if USDA does that, but I think they could come down 6 or 7 and be okay. I'd be fine if they come down more. The prices go up. I like this $5 handle on corn. I'd like to see it go higher.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the work you did this week.
All right. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it.
Sherman Newlin is with Zaner Ag Hedge. He's been running the western leg of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour all this week. They'll be in Rochester, Minnesota, where they will announce their final figures for Iowa and Minnesota, the yields. Those will be posted to our website at willag.org after 8 o'clock tonight. And then tomorrow, Pro Farmer will take all of the figures and they will transition those to their Pro Farmer national yields for both corn and soybeans. We'll talk with Lane Acree during the 2 o'clock hour, this closing market report tomorrow on our home station. And these radio stations, of course, will carry it tomorrow afternoon as well at various times across WHOW, WTIM, and WILL. One note about the tour and the differentials. I didn't give you those numbers exactly all week, though there is an historical differential that Pro Farmer uses. Again, it's about 4.6 bushels for the Illinois number. I will say that last year's Pro Farmer Crop Tour number was 199. This year it's 184. They were still off the USDA number by nearly 14 bushels last year when that final figure came out from the United States Department of Agriculture. And Pro Farmer, when they take a look at all of these numbers tomorrow, will caress them so they reflect, for instance, the better crop that you might find in the Terre Haute, Indiana area down where Sherman Newlin lives, and in southern Illinois, and other places, of course, across the whole of the Midwest. So we'll need to wait until that's released at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll talk with Lane Acree tomorrow during the 2 o'clock hour. Posted to the website at willag.org about that time as well to get the Pro Farmer Crop Tour final figures. Mike Tannura now joins us to take a look at some of what might be taking place in the Midwest. He is the president and CEO at tstorm.net online. That's T-Storm Weather. Hi, Mike. Thanks for being with us. Let's talk about the coming week or so. It looks like we'll have more sunshine than we have had in the past.
Well, we certainly will, and there will be a lot drier weather going forward, so that'll be a good thing for a lot of the Corn Belt. It's kind of interesting if you look at it because basically about 15% of the U.S. corn and soybean crops have had way too much rain over the last 10 to 20 days, and that primarily stretches from Illinois into Indiana and Ohio. Now, the thing that's a little bit unusual is that if you look at the forecast going forward, there's not a whole lot of rain ahead. And the reason it's kind of interesting is because if you recall, we did not have that much rain over the last half of July, and now it looks like we're not going to see too much rain from late August into September. By the time you total all of this up, we'll actually be in a drying trend if you look at it over the 60-day window. So by the time we get into the beginning of September, it'll actually have been a little bit drier than usual for the U.S. corn and soybean crops as a whole, and that's despite that pocket of heavy rain that we saw, again, over the last couple of weeks. If you look at yield potential, though, we really didn't see a big drop-off in yields despite having some dry weather like this in 4 or 5 years in the past to close out August and lead into September. So overall, we're kind of getting toward the end of the season where the importance of weather is diminishing.
So once we get past the dry weather, yield potential seems all right. What do you see later on? Any changes?
Well, I think the big uncertainty is the temperatures. Once we get into later on next week, there's some uncertainty there. Some models, like the GFS model, is really bringing in some pretty good heat 5, 10, 15 days from now. But if you look at the European ensemble, it's showing more of the same, which is where these cool fronts that we have had over the last couple of days continue to move through and basically leave temperatures pretty normal with highs in the 80s and lows in the 60s. We think that's the more probable scenario because once you're into late August and you get a few cool fronts moving through, you typically keep on having them move through. It's a little bit unusual for a front to come through like this and still have a few fronts behind them, but somehow end up being really hot. So you never know for sure, but we kind of think that it'll be more similar to a normal setup than an unusual setup like the GFS model is currently showing.
Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds great, Todd.
Mike Tannura is with T-Storm Weather. That's tstorm.net online and helped us to wrap up this Thursday edition of the Closing Market Report. Don't forget, we'll record Commodity Week this afternoon, posted to our website by about 6 o'clock this evening. You can listen at WILLAG.org. I'm Extension's Todd Gleason.